Hello, welcome to Central Ohio Heaters. Thanks for your interest today in our tutorial video for a LANAIR waste oil heater. The model we're going to be using in our demonstration today is a LANAIR MX250. The other models are very similar but slightly different. We're going to show you 5 different things. The first being components. Talk about the location, description, purpose. The second being the sequence of operation. The third being an operational video. The fourth being practical installation guidelines. And the fifth being cleaning and periodic maintenance. Okay, let's go. The components. First you have the power coming to the machine, comes to the terminal strip. This is where the customer brings the power and the neutral to the heater, and that runs down to the LANAIR terminal power strip. Your neutral goes up here. This is what they call the terminal strip. Next is the fan limit control on top of the furnace. Up here you have the quick disconnect cord. Inside the burner you have another terminal junction power strip. We'll get this open here. There. This top is neutral. The bottom is burner on power. It's just a general terminal strip. The orange power here comes down to run the entire burner. It runs the air solenoid back here, the air regulators here on the side. This is the air regulator, regulates the pressure coming to the burner. The air diaphragm, when the air comes up here, this opens to let the plunger come back off of the nozzle to let oil through the nozzle. Over here you have the nozzle, and behind the nozzle there's a quad ring. That's this here. Sometimes when you pull the nozzle out, the O-ring comes out with the nozzle. Be sure that you take this O-ring and put it up inside the block here. The best thing to use is probably a Craftsman nut driver. Put it up in there and work it up in the block. Once you got it up here in the block inside, then you put your nozzle in the front of the block. That's called a quad ring. It's not just a standard O-ring. Next you have your combustion air blower, your air band. There's a blower inside of here. The motor's over here. You have your transformer, your power lugs on the transformer. When it's running, there's 10 to 14,000 volts comes out of here. That sits down on here, which is the bus bar, goes to the electrodes. Be sure you use the big hats on here. They have small hats. Them won't sit down on your bus bars here as good. They can jump off to the side if you use the small hats. You have the electric eye here, sends ohms back to the flame controller. That keeps the red button from popping all day long. This is your flame controller or ignition oil primary. The electrodes are over here. This is your electrodes. They come in front of the nozzle. This is your retention head. This is the new style retention head. The old style looks like this. It has a 90-degree bend in here, and the outside of it is crooked. Be sure you use the new style retention head. All the late model LANAIR furnaces have the late style retention head. That's this one here. It's nice and straight on the outside, and it has this angle on here. The PEEP door is this here, where you watch the flame. This is another PEEP windows where you can see in here to watch them hats come down on the bus bar when you slide that front. You can shine a flashlight in here to make sure that them hats are coming down the bus bars to make sure it makes electrode contact on the bus bars properly. The target's in the back of the waste oil furnace. It's a big fire brick where it the flame shoots on the back. The fan motor is in the back of the furnace back here, blows the hot air out in the shop. The meter pump is right here. Do yourself a favor. If you buy a LANAIR waste oil furnace, get a meter pump. They control the flame size very well, keeps the flame running smoothly. It's a slow RPM pump motor, and then you don't have to have a pressure regulator at all. It simply pushes it through the right flow. If it's diesel fuel, it pushes it through at very low pressure. If it's heavyweight motor oil, the pressure rises, still goes through the same speed. If you ever do get carbon or dirt or rubber or trash in the nozzle, the flow slows down. This meter pump will build all the way up to about 50, 60 pounds, and it will pop off. If it can't push it through, it normally pushes it through, but if it can't, then this pop-off valve here will vent the pressure back to the tank. This is a nice setup. We use a spin-on filter on what we sell, and we use a vacuum gauge so you can tell if the spin-on filter is free or plugged up. And then we use a half-inch flare copper suction line, goes down the tank, suck the oil up to the meter pump. And then we have a pressure filter between the pump and the burner to get the oil nice and clean before it goes to the burner. That keeps the interior preheater parts clean. Barometric dampers over here. This goes on to the furnace, and when the exhaust gases come out of the furnace, it goes past the barometric damper. If the smokestack's too tall and it's pulling too hard, it lets extra cold air in here to cool it down and slow it down to make the proper draft. Next, we're going to talk about the sequence of operation. The power comes from the circuit breaker here. It needs to be turned on 15 minutes so the whole thing warms up. From there, it goes up on top to the overheat switch. After it's been through the wiring terminal strip here to the overheat switch, if it's not overheated, then it comes down here, comes down through the yellow quick disconnect power tail, and runs up to run the preheater switch and the heaters inside. There's a heater here, the main heater in the bottom block, the small heater here that heats the air in the top block. That power coming from the electric tail runs through this on and off switch to the preheater switch to keep the block at the right temperature. You shouldn't be able to hold your hand on this block very long. It should get nice and warm. Wait 15 minutes, turn your wall thermostat on. That's here to the TNT terminal. That's where your wall thermostat goes, normally a red and white wire. When this turns on, then your flame controller sends power out the orange wire to the orange section of the terminal strip here, which starts the pump on the tank. Is the wire here. This goes out to the pump on your tank, runs the pump. It also starts the blower motor for combustion air. It opens the air solenoid, brings compressed air into the burner. That comes over here, comes in the heater block, pulls the piston diaphragm back, opens the oil seal in the back of the nozzle when that plunger comes back. And then the oil can flow through the nozzle. Your transformer here gets hot, sets on these bus bars, that lights the flame. So you have combustion air, ignition, oil pressure coming up here, and that starts the flame. Once you get a flame, the electric eye that's here on the lid, when you shut this lid, it shoots up in here to watch the flame. That sends ohms back this double yellow cord, comes up here to the flame controller. This keeps the red button from popping the unit off. It keeps the thing running all day long, unless you run out of fuel, unless you have a flame out. It keeps it running all day long, unless there's a flame out or an overheat condition. If you lose electrical connection and you lose a fan in the middle of the night, the unit will slightly overheat in the top and safely shut the unit down. Now, we want to talk about an operational video. Show you the operational video. We want to show you the color of the flame. The color of the flame is very important. That will tell you a lot about the flame. Notice here the flame is a bright white yellow in color. If we turn that's what the flame is supposed to look like right there, just a soft, gentle, rolling flame. It's not flickering and fluttering, does not have a brown tail, does not have a black tail. Now let me turn the compressed air up here. I'll turn it up. See how you get a brown flame? The flame turns brown. That's because it's way too much air, especially a brown tail on the flame. I'll back it down. About 15 pounds where it normally runs. Nice gentle rolling flame again. Now if you take it down, you soon start getting a black smothering flame. That's too much fuel and not enough air. Makes kind of a long flame too, it's just kind of lazy. Turn it up again, lots of air. Short, brown flame. Anyway, about 15 pounds of pressure is approximate adjustment. Now, here's the air bend. We normally put a green line on for our customers to show them approximately where the air bend goes. I'm going to loosen this adjustment here to show you the difference. Too much air. Again, you get a brown tail on the flame. Close it down. Get a nice clean flame. Close it down too far, and the flame starts fluttering. You get a black tail on the flame. Flame gets dark on the end, see the long black tail on it, and then I'll set it here back to the green line. Makes it run nice and smooth. Okay, now just an important note here: when the burner's running, the actual adjustments when you first open the peep door. When you first open it. If you hold it open, sometimes you can get some extra false air in here, which is going to change your adjustment some. If you have too much air, the flame will flutter and blink and flicker. If you have way too much air, you'll have a brown flame on the tail end. If you have too little of air here on the air band, you'll flutter and it'll shake and shudder. Watch the flame burn off the smokestack. No smoke. Thing burns beautiful. No black smoke. Just clean exhaust. Works beautiful. Okay. What a pleasant experience. Nice warm air coming out of the front of the unit. Nice heater. When you're watching the flame here, just one other comment, you want to watch the last 2 inches of the flame. That's where primarily the whole story is told. This is the total amperage of the total machine with the fan running. It's about 11 amps, 11 1/4 amps. That's with the fan motor running and everything. If you shut the fan motor off, five and a half amps, 5 3/4 amps approximately. Okay, I think we're going to shut the burner down here. Now we're going to talk about practical installation guidelines. You need to have 3 foot in all directions. Here's where you need to clean the furnace. You especially need some room on this side. Some furnaces you clean them in other directions. You need to leave room in front of your furnace, especially above the furnace here for heat protection, for fire protection. On the side of the furnace, on your stack where your stack goes through the ceiling, you need to have 4 inches. The insulation needs to be cut back 4 inches at least, and be sure you use triple wall insulation where you go through your flammables. Don't run single wall insulation, a single wall stack through the ceiling. When you go through the ceiling, be sure you use triple wall and keep the insulation back. Use the insulation shield inside of the attic up there to keep the insulation back. You need to be 8 foot off of the floor. As far as your electrical power wire coming to the furnace, be sure you use a heavy enough power wire that doesn't get hot. Normally they use 12 gauge, but be sure you refer to the amp rating on the furnace, so you use a heavy enough wire. Especially watch it on ductable models. Ductable models pull more current. They will need a heavier wire. Another thing, don't put your furnace in a driveway. There have been people who mounted the furnace in the center of the shop. They back a semi through the shop and the whole furnace comes crashing down off the ceiling right when it's running. Kerbam, everything comes down. Don't laugh, it has happened. It's not a pretty thing. Be sure you mount your furnace off on the side, maybe on a part shelf, or maybe on mount it off the ceiling. If it's good and strong, mount it up there securely. The meter pump here, be sure you have a suction, a leak-proof suction line. We don't like pipe unions in there. They tend to suck air, and it's very important with a meter pump that it does not suck air. A note on your pressure line here, when your pressure line goes from the output side of the meter pump here up to the furnace, don't go up against the up against the ceiling and then over and back down to your furnace, because the air bubble will not bleed downhill. Be sure you use a big enough line to run the distance so you don't have a lot of line friction. Next, we want to talk about cleaning and periodic maintenance. Every 500 hours of operation, or at least at the end of the season, you're going to need to clean the furnace out. Every furnace creates ash. Inside of the furnace, you're going to have an ash. Looks something like this here. Baby powder or lime. It's not like black ash. It's very clean stuff if your furnace is working properly, if you have it set properly. On here on the air band and the air regulator, the unit will run nice and clean, and you'll get a white to tan ash in most oils, depending on what kind of oil you burn. We're going to take the burner off here to show you how to clean the waste oil furnace. Take this side off. Take the swing out burner off. That swing out burner is very nice. Take the peep door off. A row of screws around here. This whole cover comes off. And then you have a row of bolts around the cover. This cover here. It's on a hinge over here. This whole cover swings open on the 260 or on the 250 MX furnace. Very nice way to clean it out here. Just take a row of nuts off. This whole thing here swings open. We have a nice clean out tool for this. It sets in here. You can clean out the whole chamber that way, and then we have a round tool that cleans out the tubes. Get the ash out of the tubes. If you notice here, we're starting to get a white a little bit of a white color up here, that's that clean burn ash that's starting to develop. Be sure you clean this out every 500 hours. Or at least at the end of every season. We do have a clean out tool available for any waste oil furnace. This is an older model here. We make a nice clean out panel available on the 260 LANAIR. This comes off. A slightly different tool. You clean 4 of your tubes back here. The other 4 you can clean through the chimney here, and then you can also get down inside of the firebox and clean out the firebox. This easy clean out panel here, which we put on different waste oil furnaces, works very well. Your burner needs to be checked once a year to make sure the nozzle, the retention head, the electrodes, everything's in good working condition and service anything that needs. Weekly, you need to check the flame appearance, check your suction and pressure gauges over on the meter pump to make sure you don't have a high suction vacuum or a high pressure on the output on the pump. Drain your water periodically in your tank. Check the draft in the peep door right here. Check yearly for any problems in the burner. Be sure you disconnect the yellow quick disconnect cord at the end of the season. Some of them are black, but they look the same. They got a 5-pin terminal here, most of them. That's what powers the entire burner, keeps them heaters warm in the winter. Now you don't want to run them all summer long because that will carbonize inside of the preheater block. That's very important that doesn't run all summer long. If you're interested in a 250,000 BTU MX250 LANAIR waste oil furnace, call Central Ohio Heaters. Or any other size or model, we can fix you up. CentralOhioHeaters.com is our website. Come on over. We have lots of pictures. We have lots of pictures to click on for greater detail. Great prices on heaters and heater components. We also have a free technical help page. Over at the side, click on the technical help tab. We also have a 50-point safety inspection we do on our furnaces to make sure everything is properly functioning and safe and operational. Come on over to CentralOhioHeaters.com. What can we help you with? And thanks again for watching. Have a nice day.